Manchester City a draw with Nottingham Forest 1-1. It finished. Does that result? Do you think take the shine off that midweek win over Arsenal and Man City?
Absolutely. I mean, Man City to go to Nottingham Forest, and Forest have had a decent run of form at home in recent weeks, aside from the Carabao Cup semi-final defeat against Man United. But you'd expect City to win this, and the fact they didn't win it and they conceded late on, it means that all that kind of that momentum they built up from beating Arsenal has kind of been eroded. And not only that, I mean, Arsenal won that game at Villa in the dying seconds, didn't they? It was that late kind of own goal by Martinez, which was very unfortunate, and then the second goal by Martinelli. But the 4-2 win looks like Arsenal cruised it, but they didn't. It was very, very tight at Villa Park. So, two very late swings in both games have taken the momentum away from Man City and given it back to Arsenal, although I do think that City are still favourites. But it's been a big, big day in the title race, and it could be even bigger tomorrow if Man United beat Leicester, because all of a sudden, Man United might think they're back in the title race. So I keep saying it's a 2.5 race, 2.5 team race. Maybe it's 2 3/4 team now. Let's see what happens tomorrow.
We've got Stevie Nicol with us. Stevie, obviously, as you can hear, Mark Ogden a lot more positive about Liverpool's top 4 chances right now. A lot more positive than you are, it's fair to say. Just going to the title race in itself, Stevie, we're just talking about the fact that City, with that draw to Nottingham Forest today, it's just really hard to know what's going to happen here. I feel like we just keep seeing these two, obviously Arsenal coming back today in the way that they did. It's really hard to predict how this title race is going to end up.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting some strange performances and some strange results. And, the first thing that struck me about Arsenal was, this is why you don't moan and complain and look for excuses, because the game of football will give and take away whenever it's ready. And last week, Arsenal got 2 points taken away. But guess what? This week, they were given 2 points. I mean, what's the odds of Jorginho hitting the crossbar, coming down, hitting Martinez in the back of the head and the ball going in the net? I mean, so you have to roll with it. And things are going to happen throughout the season. And as long as you keep at what you think you need to do, that's what's going to take you through. And that's what's going to take the title to one of these two sides. As far as City's concerned, I mean, you talk about throwing 2 points away. Forest with one shot at goal, pretty much one half-decent attack, and they score a goal. And then, of course, the chances up the other end. Laporte should have scored with a header. And by the way, in my opinion, Laporte has a lot to do with the goal they lost. I think it was Johnson just walked past them inside on the left-hand side. All he's got to do is take him wide. But it was horrendous defending from Laporte, which I'm not surprised about. I don't like him as a centre-back anyway. I think he's lucky to be where he is. But City, yeah, they'll be kicking themselves. But I think what we've seen over the last 2 or 3 weeks is exactly what we're going to get between now and the end of the season. Neither Arsenal nor City look as though they're going to be or put together such a dominating run as City have done over the last few seasons, winning the title. I don't see that happening, which means that we're going to be sat here every weekend talking about what's just happened. How did that happen? Why did it happen? So, listen, for us, it's fantastic. For Arsenal and City, not so good for the heart.
You mentioned those chances at the other end, though, Steve. It was 23 efforts from Man City. Pep Guardiola even having to say afterwards, today, we missed too many clear chances. Is that going to be a problem for them going forwards?
Do you know City have always missed a lot of chances throughout the last, 4 or 5 seasons, 4 wins in the last 5 years, I think it is. But they've actually still scored goals as well, even though they've missed. It just seems that now they're missing and not making up for it. That seems to be the problem this season. When they're not scoring, somebody's not turning around and producing. You think of all the goal scorers have in their side, but right now, certainly at this moment in time, none of them are turning around and getting a goal from nothing.
Mark, the guys on the FC show last night were critical of Mikel Arteta complaining about the schedule. What's been the response in England to this?
I think there's been a bit of support for him, to be honest, because he is right in saying that if you're a Champions League team that plays on a Wednesday, you get the Saturday morning slot off. So, it is a bit odd that Arsenal played Wednesday night, but they're not in the Champions League, but they play Saturday morning. So, but, I've got to say that all the teams that have won the Premier League title over the last 20 years have had to deal with that. They've had to deal with playing away on a Wednesday, coming back and playing the Saturday morning. It is all part of the kind of that unique element of winning the Premier League. You have to overcome a lot of different challenges, the weather, the pitches, the games at Christmas, the derby games, all this nonsense. This is just part of it. So he won't be complaining now whether they've won 4-2 and they've shown their resilience. So he could turn it into a positive, saying that, you know, we played Wednesday night, we've won Saturday morning. So it's a positive now. But yeah, I can understand his point, but you have to overcome these things. That is the reality of managing the Premier League.
Stevie, I know you might poo-poo me for saying this actually. Is the manner of getting back to winning ways for Arsenal actually a good thing for them? The fact that they had to fight back and it felt like it was against adversity for them right now, is that going to be helpful for them going forward on this run of games that they've got, which on paper we know look more favourable for them?
It just gives you a boost. It gives you a boost. It's when you win the way you do, and it just gives you a boost. You know, listen, if you go and win 5-0, you don't get quite the adrenaline boost, but psychologically you get it somewhere else. You know what I mean? So it depends how you. It just depends how you use it. I think Ogden was alluding to that. It's how you deal with it, how you use all the positives, and how you fight against the negatives. And the fact that you win a game late never does morale any harm whatsoever. As I said, from the coach's point of view, you'd rather win 5-0, easy peasy, and then the confidence keeps growing and you do it that way. But yeah, to win in the last kick of the game, pretty much, certainly in injury time, for the third goal is just, it gets everybody going.
What do you think Pep will have thought about that result today then, Mark? He's going to be annoyed, isn't he?
He'll be furious. I mean, he was furious towards the end of the game, wasn't he, when he started having a row with the referee. So, you know, Pep knows that his team isn't playing well at the moment. They're dropping a lot of points and they're not being very convincing. They haven't been convincing really since the World Cup. So he'll be concerned, but he's got plenty of options to change it, and he does change it. So there's just something not right at Man City. I mean, you know, the whole João Cancelo thing when he went to Bayern Munich, the fact that he doesn't play Foden very often, Kyle Walker, all these players. I think Pep's struggling to get the balance right this season, and it is giving everybody else a chance. Whether the World Cup's had an impact as well, the kind of disjointed nature of the season, but there is something odd about City this year. They're not as convincing as they have been. So it may be that Pep's message isn't getting through as it used to do. I think we've spoken about this in recent weeks, that sometimes when a manager's been there too long and the players have been there too long, that they're sick of hearing the same message, especially if they've had success there and they are no longer the rookies who don't know how to win. They all know how to win now. And Pep maybe is a little bit too much like the headmaster at times. And I think another significant thing as well is that he no longer has a Mikel Arteta or a Juan Milillo or these assistant managers that can basically say to Pep, no, just calm down a bit, do it this way, do it that way. There's nobody to put the handbrake on him. So whether that is an issue as well, it just seems that City needs something to click it all back together again and bring some harmony back, because these results, like dropping points at Nottingham Forest, are a sign that it's not all right.
You know, I think the biggest problem they have is they are not dominating teams. And the reason I think they're not dominating teams the way they used to is because they're not defending well enough behind the ball. And I've spoken about that over the last couple of weeks. And when I say defending behind the ball, there's two things that happen with that. One is clearly when the opposition get out, then your back four have to defend. And they haven't been able to do that. But when Man City were dominating teams, the midfield weren't letting the opposition get to the back four. So there's two different types of defending behind the ball. And I think what we're seeing this year is that the midfield aren't dominating as much as they had previously. And so the back four's got more to do. And of course, that encourages the opposition. You know, when City were at their best and the opposition couldn't breathe, then you crumble under the pressure. But teams aren't crumbling under the pressure because they keep giving them a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel in regards to not taking the chances, and then, of course, letting them have little tidbits and little opportunities. And then you see today, Forest just stick at it and they give them an opportunity and with one shot at goal and they score. So I think that is their biggest problem. I think if they were to get back to dominating sides and keeping them in their own half and in their own penalty box, then they would start scoring more goals. Yes, they're still making opportunities, they're not taking them, but they would get even more opportunities.
You know, I think a big problem with Haaland is that as a centre forward, the ball doesn't stick with him. So when he's not scoring goals, he doesn't really contribute enough for me. I don't think when he's got his back to play, he can't hold the ball up. It bounces off him a little bit. So, Stevie will know that the best at this was Ian Rush back in the 80s. He was the best defender in the league because he defended from the front, and Haaland doesn't do that. Haaland doesn't press. He doesn't defend from the front as he should do. And when he's asked to kind of play with his back to goal, he doesn't like that physical kind of confrontation with the centre half. So the ball keeps coming back to the midfielders, and the control that they've used to having isn't there because they're not used to ping pong in between the defence and the attack as it is with Haaland. Now Haaland's a brilliant goal scorer, but I think he's more of a kind of an old school kind of Gary Lineker, Michael Owen type who doesn't offer much more to the team than his goals. When he's not scoring goals, he kind of creates a problem for the team because he doesn't allow the team to control the ball. Harry Kane would have been a much better signing for Man City because he does all that stuff that Haaland doesn't do. He can hold the ball up, he can bring teammates into play, he can pass to teammates, he can play 1-2s, he can create assists. Haaland doesn't do any of that, but he scores lots of goals. So you have to balance it up by saying, are the goals that he's scoring worth losing the other elements of the game, which sometimes makes the team, less good as they were last season.
A couple of things here, Stevie. First of all, what you think of what Mark just said there about Haaland and his fit at Manchester City, and the fact that it is 1 goal in 5 for him now. Is it an issue when he doesn't score for the team?
I kind of agree with Oggy, to be honest. It's an issue for Haaland more than the team, because I think he's right. He's there to score goals, and other than we've been speaking about not getting the ball in behind the opposition for him enough or early enough. So after putting the ball in behind for him to run onto and him putting the ball in the net, I think Oggie's right. His contribution is, you almost feel as though when he comes short, he's doing it just so he can get a touch, just to show everybody he's actually still there, because he's not as Oggie said. That's not his forte. So. But you know what? Are you really not going to have him? It probably sounds strange to some people that we're saying this. The fact that it's true, but the fact is, when somebody scores the amount of goals he does, then you have to figure a way out. That's the coach's job. It's different with Haaland, but that's the coach's job. And certainly, if you're a City fan, I don't think any of them are wishing they didn't have him. That's for sure.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.